EA Sports. It's in the game.
It starts now.
Press the Enter key to start.
Dios mío. Ya sé, a ver si se puede. Sin hacer un cochinero, pero...
Coming out of service now, and this crew will be hoping that was time and effort well spent. Have they got the most critical issues under control?
Starts 5 left, 60. Good luck. 5.
You know how, when you drop something, you in almost slow motion get to see it hit the ground and break. It hasn't actually broken yet, but in that tiny interval of gravity pulling it to the ground, you know it will. You brace the impact because you can't stop it. As you watch it fall, you feel like it's already broken. It's Schrodinger's cat in motion. In a similar sense, I feel like I've already died because I carry the knowledge that I will, and I'm watching myself slowly hit the ground, shattering into tiny pieces, spreading out to be reborn again and again and again, to die again and again and again.
Small crest, slowing, 50, 2 left, keep in, 30, 3 right, tightens, and turn square left.
Samsara is a concept of many different Eastern religions, most notably Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism. It is the concept of a continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that all beings are supposedly caught in. Because it's covered in so many different religions, all varying in style, belief, and discussion, it's impossible to cover such a topic broadly without cherry-picking. So to avoid making sweeping statements, I'm going to be focusing on very particular philosophies and ideas of these religions. Mostly focusing on the Buddhist and Vedic versions because it's the ones I followed the most closely. I learnt about it in my religious studies class in high school, so that pretty much makes me an expert. Sarcasm hopefully noted. I've read some books and have dabbled in some of the teachings myself with a friend who is Vedic and committed to that religion. It should be noted that I'm still very new to this and learning more every day. With that said, Samsara is about the inevitable of living by confronting the inevitable of dying, the nature of both, the blend of both, the relationship of both, the cycle that it is trapped in, the experience of that entrapment. In Hinduism, it is karmic associations with the afterlife, a being's actions resulting in whatever next life they have. Some become higher life forms from their good deeds, like becoming divine souls or remaining human, and some become lower life forms, like becoming insects and animals. In Buddhism, it is the state ultimately one wishes to escape from. It has, while still quite mystical leanings, a more pragmatic and material view of the cycle. All beings constantly are in a cycle of birth and death. The more we cling to our individual life, the more attached we feel, the more we feel pain. In Buddhism, to free oneself from this pain, you must go through the Eightfold Path. Before I describe the Eightfold Path, I would like to illuminate that I'm not here to convince you of these religions, just that there is genuine virtue here, regardless of whether you follow Buddhism to the absolute or at all. I'm agnostic myself, but I like learning about other religions, and I think a majority of these ideas could be applicable to anyone. Buddhism centers on 4 noble truths originally spoken by the Buddha in his native tongue, Magadhan. This has made some of the English translations over the years confusing and muddying, as there aren't a lot of direct translative words between the two languages. For example, the first noble truth when translated to English is life is dukkha. But we don't have a translative word in the English language for dukkha. The closest is suffering, but that might make a reader literally think the first noble truth says plainly, life is suffering. Dukkha is much more complex in nuances as a concept simply than suffering. The East really does love their analogies and metaphors, and it's sometimes more helpful for describing their concepts than translations. The most helpful analogy I've seen for English speakers is to think of dukkha as the axle of a wheel that is out of place, so that when in motion, the wheel wobbles, leading to unsteadiness, and if used as transport, a bumpy ride. Essentially a grocery shopping cart. Suffering has the connotation of pain, visceral pain, conscious pain, a hurt knee, a stubbed toe, a broken heart. But dukkha is about the concept before the pain that leads to it, the desire for steadiness while working with an unsteady framework, while working with a wheel that wobbles. Life is unsteady, life is bumpy, life is unease, because life is built upon dukkha, or more precisely, an unsteady framework, while wanting stability. So, life is dukkha is not like life is suffering, it's more like life is unsatisfying, and its primary reason for being such is the transitory nature of satisfaction, which leads very well into the second noble truth. Suffering, or the unsatisfying nature of existence, is due to desire.
have a puncture. 4
I
kilometers
wouldn't
to go.
care if life is unstable if I didn't desire stability. I wouldn't care if a ride is bumpy if I didn't desire a smooth ride. Desire breeds dissatisfaction. We are dissatisfied because we desire. One of the writing tropes that is so unlike reality in fiction is the concept of an indefinite happy ending, or really even a satisfying ending. Audiences want the satisfying ending, authors want the satisfying ending. It almost justifies the commitment of staying invested with a story. Life doesn't have satisfying endings. We edit reality, retellings, and imagination to make it pleasing, satisfying, and meaningful. We surround ourselves with stories of good and evil to satisfy our morality when the real world doesn't. We've been telling the same stories in slightly different ways since we began telling stories. Cain and Abel, Adam and Eve, Romeo and Juliet, David and Goliath, E-Girl remake. Despite how many we make, and despite how similar they are, we are never satisfied, and we will never stop telling stories. In a way, storytelling, myth-making could be viewed like salt in a wound, or a satiation of something that can never truly be satiated. It gives a comforting context to existence that existence itself doesn't provide. We set ourselves up for failure by basing our idea of life and morality on the imposition, on that edited version, on the satisfying version. Perhaps the only way to stop that unease and dissatisfaction is to stop seeking satisfaction and living life for the delusion that it should or ever will cater to me, which leads very well into the third noble truth. There is a cessation of dukkha, and the fourth noble truth, there is a path leading to the cessation of dukkha, the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is a general set of morality centering around the release and avoidance of craving and desire. Buddhism doesn't have an equivalent to the Bible or Quran, a central text that explains the main story or outlook on devotion, worship, and life. Instead, Buddhism is a vast library of different texts all centering around the Buddhist teachings. Reading all of it, even when it's just the essential texts, is quite the undertaking. The Pali Canon alone is 12,800 pages and around 30 million characters, so almost as long as One Piece essentially. But this is one of the main tenets and core pillars of this insanely wide-spanning religion. The Eightfold Path was invented by the Buddha after his enlightenment, not to be confused with this enlightenment. His path to enlightenment began after being shocked from an upbringing of luxury and strong protection from the ills of the world. You see, the man we know as the Buddha was raised as a prince, and his parents didn't want him to be clouded in judgment or run away from the kingdom. So to protect him, they shielded him from things like death, illness, and don't take your dog here hiking signs. Because of this, his view of the world was a very safe and closed-off one, but eventually, inevitably, death, illness surrounded him despite these protections. People he would care about would grow old and begin breaking down. Eventually, despite the forced rose-tinted view of life, he came across the poor and suffering in his kingdom. Why does life have so much suffering? Why was he blind to it? It deeply disturbed his life of manufactured peace, and he couldn't then simply just return to it. Instead, after meeting a poor ascetic, he sought a spiritual journey and escaped in the night from his kingdom. It's a bit similar to Moses, honestly. At first, after leaving, he tried a form of asceticism, which is rigorous self-discipline to not indulge in any form of pleasure. This is not to be confused with the modern day, I have to take cold showers, stop talking to women, and run away into the woods to become a Viking mindset. No, asceticism is about truly divulging from pleasures and vanity. Barely eating, no material possessions, for 6 years. The Buddha tried this with heavy meditation, but by the end, he just grew near death from starvation, and he didn't feel any closer to solving the root problem of suffering. If only there was some kind of middle way between endless hedonism and self-flagellation and punishment disguised as virtue. And that's what he made, the middle way, the enlightened centrist of feeling, without the pretentiousness. With the needs of the body, one should not heavily indulge in something, but also not never indulge in something. This seems incredibly simple, but was quite counter to the narrative around him with ascetics and was paired with his later teachings of the Eightfold Path. Now, finally, what is the Eightfold Path? Reading from the official Buddhist monastery's website, it is 1. The right view. Understand life's impermanence and the root of suffering to gain deeper insight. 2. Right intention. Cultivate thoughts of compassion, kindness, and renunciation. 3. Right speech. Speak truthfully, kindly, and avoid gossip or harmful words. 4. Right action. Act ethically and responsibly. Avoid harming others. 5. Right livelihood. Choose work that aligns with compassion and does not cause harm. 6. Right effort. Commit to positive habits while letting go of unwholesome ones. 7. Right mindfulness. Stay fully present within your body, emotions, and thoughts. 8. Right concentration. Develop deep focus and meditative stillness for clarity and peace. Recognizing the Four Noble Truths, living the Eightfold Path, practicing like this leads to enlightenment. Buddha actually means enlightened one. The Buddha practiced and lived by this example of mindset and philosophy until he reached such a point where he ended the desire for craving. He achieved the third and fourth noble truth and achieved nirvana. Nirvana is more than just a fantastic grunge band. It's a state of being that arises when a person detaches completely from desire, detaches from earthly material wants. It is the end point of the Eightfold Path, the goal of the Eightfold Path, and what an enlightened individual wishes to achieve. It's also what Kurt named the band after. You are still under the body's needs, but there is no need for self-flagellation, and there is no need for external material pleasures, needing anything to feel complete. Through doing this, one negates suffering. By eliminating what causes it, achieves true peace. So why did I just do a large summary of samsara and Buddha's story just now, especially as someone who's not actually religious? Well, let me go cocoa bananas for a second, as I often do. If the universe is one big ship of Theseus, where matter is constantly forming consciousness, the universe perceiving its own reality through senses, then dying, then reforming, recycling itself, then the Buddhists were in a sense completely right, where material reality, or samsara, is a never-ending loop of matter changing into states of being, conscious and unconscious in different ways. The universe being self-aware about itself, just as I'm self-aware of myself writing this line. The self, or in Buddhism the anatta, causes pain because it clings onto the temporary state of consciousness in order to protect itself, when it knows it's temporary and would be in less pain to accept what it is and will be. We cling to permanence in an impermanent reality. The Four Noble Truths in the Eightfold Path is really about acceptance of life, of what life is, and what our relationship with pain is. It's not just knowledge, it's a process, it's a practice, and much like morality, it's really hard. I would be better if I lived with it, and it's true, and it's really hard. Truth like this conflicts with the emotional reality I as an individual live in, and I only get more reinforced into that reality the older I get. One could even view the most ego-driven point as the medium of one's life, the middle, between birth and death, as they are the furthest in time from both sides of non-existence, and therefore would likely be the most concerned about the self. This is a likely reason why people have midlife crises. You are in the typical middle of life, not with the naivete of youth or the jadedness of age, and yet you still feel unfulfilled in some way. This is because we base the meaning of life on the impermanence of a permanent reality. Much like our satisfying fictional endings to soothe the unsatisfying poetry we live in, we imagine the plate will forever be in freefall and not hit the ground. The material matter that makes me up has existed long before me and will exist long after me. It's an insult to my ego to confront this fact, my individuality being made up of such a large whole, with a history and a future devoid of what I think of me, completely engulfing all society and myself has built up in me. Buddhism, unlike other philosophies, does not cater to ego. Everything about Buddhism is an insult and perfect rap, bar for bar diss track against my ego. And it goes too hard. It's too brutal in its lyricism. It makes me think of things that I and society tries desperately not to think about. For example, something that scared me up until recently was the visual image of... Okay, this is going to be gross. If you're squeamish, skip to this time frame. The visual image of vultures and worms eating my corpse. Yes, I'm fun at parties, by the way. The image just seems beastly, unkempt, and unnatural, even though it isn't. Its specific context is probably not going to happen, but the vague details are inevitable and expected. My body is going to rot and will in one way or another be consumed by the contents of Earth over time. And it scares me. And in a bird's eye view, pun intended, it really shouldn't. Isn't it kind of, in a sense, egotistical that throughout my life I've eaten and digested the dead, but when it comes to my turn, I vainly view myself as being more important or in some sense a difference? This is where Buddhism clocks my ass in its unsoothing true lyricism. I engage in the natural cycle daily, yet recoil at the thought of participating in it when the roles are reversed. This is my ego. I'm viewing myself as different, and this entitlement brings me to satisfaction because I know I'm not entitled to be different from that which I eat. I just want to be. People have kissed this body. I kind of like this body. I preserve this body. Sometimes. And I don't want to disregard the sanctity I built up with showers, working out, sex, swimming, and sleep. But when I say I truly feel gutted at the natural disregard of everything it is, it's not really that. The cleaning and building up of my body's potential only to be knocked down at the end slowly as I lose myself. I mean, I don't cry when ice changes to water. No! Fuck! Keep going! Rage before the dying of the light, motherfucker! I don't care when trees fall down or when I see flies get caught in a web, which is actually one of the most casually horrifying things you can briefly witness. Can you imagine being a fly? Can you imagine being born out of a carcass of some dead deer or some neglected garbage, waking up surrounded by hundreds of your brothers and sisters, riveling around, eating up the rotten flesh of that growing cold body, growing and changing at a rapid rate because of how short your lifespan is, sprouting wings only to use them wandering the world looking for more little bits these giant creatures have left, shitting, dying, neglecting, so you can vomit on it, sucking up all they have left to offer, and while searching, you get caught on this one thing you can't get out of. It's sticky, and the more you struggle, the more you get caught in it. And then a terrifying, unfamiliar, larger-than-you insect that wraps you in the sticky material, cocoons you in it, slowly eating you alive, sometimes with paralyzing venom, born in decay, ending in paralysis. Everyday bits of existence itself is more terrifying than any horror movie, I'm telling you. But yes, even that is not what guts me. It's the fear that there's nothing more here than the natural process. I'm stuck in this body, on this planet, living out a script. Everyone with me, everyone before me, and everyone after me is living out. All I can do is just enjoy the ride and be grateful it wasn't something worse, because this is as good as it gets. This is all it is. This is samsara, this is wanting, this is losing, this is samsara. Personally, deep down, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what stage of life I'm in, no matter what I believe in that moment, I'm always yearning for there to be something more than this cycle, wondering if I could ever get there, and hoping that maybe, if not me, my descendants can escape the cycle we're trapped in, because it does feel like that sometimes. We're trapped, almost like the fly, born into a cycle without volition, under constraints of a failing body, forced to live out its sentence, and comprehension of that failing body in contrast with the fly hurting more than if I didn't know, half wishing for the cluelessness of my situation. Is existential dread actually just the universe comprehending itself and not liking what it sees? Self-awareness we were never actually supposed to reach? Am I stuck in an existential web, and the more I struggle with it and try to get out, the more paralyzing and caught I become, realizing that there's no escape until I stop struggling and accept my fate as my own body fails me, as it always was destined to, as it inevitably would be regardless? Nah, I get to get head, eat gummy bears, boogie down and play Doom, but it does still hurt sometimes. I can vaguely see my future. I have a rough estimate of when I'm not going to be here. I'm self-conscious when just trying to enjoy myself, feeling like I'm constantly wasting time because I'm always aware of that image of my body decaying and my limited time to have it. Sometimes I become so focused on death, it's like I can't live. The fear of wasting time makes me waste time worrying about it. I look up videos of people who've passed away talking thinking about death, always offhandedly hoping there's some little bit of wisdom that will make me feel okay about letting go of all of this, and my heart stopping and brain death as I slip into oblivion. I ask everyone I know about what they believe and why they believe it. I try every perspective I can, whether I believe it or I don't. It's not that I'm open-minded, it's that I'm passively desperate. Because can you actually imagine what that will feel like in those last few moments before the great unknown that you once knew? Paralysis. You lose the ability to speak, everything you've grown accustomed to failing, your body itself preparing to die, left with nothing but the realization that this is it. You're aware of yourself and who you are slipping. You can feel the last of those beats you've always taken for granted. Fragmented memories start playing from random points in your lifetime. Someone you can't recognize anymore holds your hand, and you forget what's even happening. Or maybe you die skiing down a giant hill, hitting a tree. Or maybe you die getting electrocuted in water. Or maybe you die getting stabbed repeatedly in an alley by a stranger with a Wiimote. The horror isn't just in dying, it's in realizing that death is so ordinary. It's not some great tragedy. Your death would probably matter as much as your life to the general public's consciousness. As in, not very much. To the vultures and the worms in this scenario I've made, I'm providing them sustenance to live. And they're not really thinking about it much. My body and corpse is just another food source to them. There is no great evil here. It's just the natural cycle I have to come to terms with, even though I don't want to. This is an example of dukkha. Again, it doesn't have a single one-word English translation, but the closest would be suffering, dissatisfaction, or unease, and it refers to the more general inherent dissatisfaction that arises from attachment, desire, and our perception of separation from the natural flow of life. The ego creates dukkha by viewing itself as outside of samsara, if that makes any sense, and that's actually a product of samsara. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. I want to participate in endless cycles while being exempt from being in one. I want never-ending reinforcement of my existence in the senses. I want endless validation from the universe and my fellow man. If I have to bargain, I want a legacy, at least. My death should be egotistically treated differently from what I know it is. Or put very eloquently, consequently, by people much wiser. Everybody wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die. Everyone accepts death around them, but shields their eyes and can't accept their own, the people they care about. That's why it is truly so revered and respected when someone can overcome this, no longer fear the inevitable, because it will happen. This causes...
Espérame tantito, ¿cómo se llama este episodio? Let's see the replay
Very
actually.
nicely driven through that stage. It's a great result for the crew, who as a result have moved up in the event standings.
1 second. 6th. Nice. Alright. My guy. ¿Cómo se le pone la música aquí? Sí. body damage. ¿Cuál fue? ¿Qué decía? Ni modo.
We've reached the climax of this rally
9
now,
of
as
9.
the last stage is all that stands between the crews and their final standings.
Start 60, 4 left of the crest. Good luck.
No sé, no
5,
están ultra
4,
low los...
3, 2, 1, go. 60, 4 left, 30, 4 right, tightens, and 6 left, 40. Five right, keep in, 150, slowing. Caution, late 2 left, very long. 30, 3 right, extra long. And 4 left short. And side right, 40. 6 left, keep in, 90. 6 right, long, opens. 50, 6 left, 160. 6 left, keep in. And 5 right, long, 40. 5 left, tightens, and 4 right short, 100. Side right short. And crest, 90. Slight left, long, slowing, 60. 2 left, long, tightens. 30, 4 right, half long, tightens, 160. Slight left short, 100. Slowing, slight left, and 6 right. 50, late, open hairpin left. 40, open hairpin right, don't cut. 60, slight left. Into 5 right, keep in, 40.
I thought I heard something. Okay. Creo que no.
2 left short, and 2 right, and slight left, slowing, 70. Late open hairpin left. 30, 2 right, long, tightens, 1. Into 6 left, 80. Crest. Sudden 6 right, slowing, 30, open hairpin left. And 4 right, and 3 left. And 3 right, 3 left, and 1 right. And 3 left, 3 right short, into 5 left. And 2 right, long. 40, slight right, into 6 left, very long. Caution, tightens 3, half long. 70, 4 right, opens, 130. Caution, 4 right, short of the crest, 30, 1 right, half long, keep in, 30, 3 left, tightens, 60. 5 left of the crest, half long, 40. 3 right, half long, 140. Tightens, 40, 1 left to 2 right, long, tightens, 40. 2 left short. And 5 right, 80. and slight right, slowly into 3 left, tightens, 30, 3 right, half long to 4 right, 30, 5 left short, don't cut, 4 right short, 40, early 6 right, slowly, 80, 3 left, half long, 50, 1 left, and slight right, narrows, 60, over finish, 5 left to 3 right to stop. Okay, it's a 4 minute, 52.0.
And with that run, this cruise event comes to an end. Let's have a look at the table now to see how they fared.
4th, 3rd, Pirate. 1st? No. Restart.
Start 60, 4 left of the crest. Good luck.
¿Listísimos? Okay.
Causes me immense suffering with an answer plainly in view, to let go of the ego and accept myself as part of the natural cycle, which is very hard to do, especially in the society we live in. But that misses that it is hard regardless. Bathing myself in an overstacked supply of Buddhist phrases and teachings won't make my father's eventual funeral hurt any less. There is no pleasure in the unconforming, unusual closure. Facing samsara as a concept, unlike Buddhism as a whole, isn't a diss track. It's like walking into a room and wondering why you're there, and then realizing your life is walking into rooms and wondering why you're there. It's like trying to stop day from turning to night for fear of the dark, growing more upset because... With our attention spans decreasing and our digital products becoming more addictive, it's hard to view the internet in a bird's eye view, or see components of it that aren't those in-your-face qualities. We often view it as a place of new information, of current information, of breaking information, the casino roulette wheel of whatever will be the next thing, missing out that it is also fundamentally an archive of information, a library, the greatest library, the strangest library. Our brains like and are attracted to the quickness and surprise of information, the what will be of what we see. So that is how it stays and is thought of in our subconsciousness. But it is not what it is. The algorithm pushes new information, but there are backlogs of buried channels and profiles. Sometimes, rarely, they get recommended. I had a random decade-old video of a teenager with a brain tumor recommended recently. In the video, she's exclaiming that while she's finding it hard to speak due to her new medication and finding it hard to balance when walking, she believes that she is going to get better, and this is just the pain before the improvement. There is tears in her eyes as she says this. Her parents announced her passing a few videos later. Seeing kids that get cancer upload vlogs, video by video getting worse and worse with the process, then post-mortem me retrospectively looking back on it as a chronological set of events, and then seeing a video where the parents speak about the kid after they passed, trying to come to terms with all that's happened, if they ever can. Me, again, not knowing anything about these people beforehand, just stumbling onto it, but having such a private, intimate look at an absolute tragedy in their family. It's heartbreaking. What a strange thing to be able to not just witness, but have randomly recommended. Should I even be able to witness something like this? Regardless, it's going to keep happening. Not exactly like this, obviously, but with a similar framework. It hasn't started properly yet, but the internet will be filled with stories like this, profiles like this. As our generation grows up and the next one takes our place and we slowly die off, our childhoods won't be just intertwined with media, but are in memoriams, tied with these platforms. The dead internet as a descriptive term of contemporary culture and traffic will not just be describing active bots, but a collection of isolated, personal cemeteries. There will be inactive, but ever-present, not tombstones, but frozen glimpses into who we were, slideshows of what we stood for, the parts we showed of ourselves, that become who we were as a method of proof that we ever were. The account you're watching this on, the account I've uploaded this on, all a collection of data that will likely outlive both of us. In my 50s, I'm gonna think back to middle school friends I haven't spoken to in 30 years, and odds are one of them will likely be dead, but I'll still have access to photos of them, how their life went, what they cared about, Instagram highlights of them getting fucking muffins, getting wasted, running marathons, having kids and shit. And I can just view their entire life like an edit, a digital scrapbook at any point viewable for me. I might be the guy someone is remembering post-mortem, with them being like, oh, I wonder what Julius has been up to, and then going, oh shit, he's gone. And they're just left with this channel, this video, as I'm speculating them speculating that very thing, remembering me, and being left with this weird digital archive filled with advertisements before, to the right-hand side and afterwards, whether I want them to or not. My very memory being turned into another thing in the attention economy, to be swallowed and forgotten about. Point being, all of this is an archive of our lives. We don't view it that way in the moment, but it is that way. When we think of digital footprints, it's almost always in the boogeyman sense. Companies, agencies, cookies, hackers keeping tracks of private information, what kind of kinky porn you watch, your medical worries, purchasing habits, what products you like, or its parents, elders, and teachers warning against leaving a notable digital footprint. Don't say X political statement, don't be risque or against the grain, what if a future employer were to see such a thing, do you want this connected to you? Endless etc. etc's. But a digital footprint, divorced from how we speak of a digital footprint, really is the sum total of all your decisions online, from potentially something as large as creating a new platform, a political movement, posting something that is risque or against the grain, to simply clicking like and viewing a video or lurking on a forum. Even by watching this, you've impacted the YouTube landscape even in a minuscule way, and left a tiny footprint of watch history, personal choice, and recommendation from each minuscule action over time, one after another. This is our long digital footprint, but what is again missed out on is that a digital footprint ends. There is a long string that eventually stops after a point, revealing a scattered, line-to-line, never-finished portrait of someone who was here at some point. Maybe it ends with some self-aware, conscious, grandiose statement that it is the end, or maybe it comes out of the blue and just abruptly stops. Either way, that footprint will be left, and sand, dirt, and cement will cover it over time, but its effects will live on. And if you were vocal enough, spoke enough, were here enough, spectators might one day find it and wonder who you were as a person, when you could still ponder about such a thing. For me, it's this ghost of a girl crying while smiling, thinking she's gonna get better when she dies a few weeks later. When you think about things like this, trivial celebrity gossip, tiny issues like waking up on the wrong side of the bed, missing a train, bad weather, it does feel like an insult to care about in comparison. And a blessing. The fact that we have so little occupying our brains, it can be filled with he said, she said, instead of lost will and testaments, and the consciousness of such a thing. This is a tightrope. There is a fine balance in being thankful for having pain in comparison to feeling nothing at all, in comparison to death, and the unhealthy extreme of experiencing Stockholm Syndrome with the idea of trauma and pain itself, romanticizing the shittiness as if you should be grateful you got anything at all. This is exemplified by death. This is the case that is never closed or well stated. Death is the breaking point in human psychology that all idealism has to adapt around, and fails to do so. It breaks apart the myth-making of fairness, of competition, of strategy. Everyone you hate politically, everyone who ever pissed you off, your exes, your crushes, your family friends, the people you thought were annoying, the people you thought were cool, the people you thought didn't deserve more time, the people you think did deserve more time, the people you've forgotten about. Everyone's inner monologue eventually goes silent. Everyone gets forgotten or misremembered. None of us win. It's not in the cards for us. We are all going to die. It's not really survival of the fittest. It's just survival. And if you don't acknowledge that fact, if you don't have it a part of consciousness, even compartmentalize, you are going to meet the end very painfully. Something much more than physicality or brutality or the endless loss of all that we've gained. Regardless of cause of death, not acknowledging what is inevitable makes when it comes feel blindsiding in a way it shouldn't. We have the gift of foresight and we use it to avoid that which we can see. Everyone becomes ugly. Everyone loses the ability to speak. We are in the process of dying right now. You can rage against the dying of light while acknowledging and accepting that at some point it will go out. It's not mutually exclusive. I don't like passive acceptance, but I will deny denial. I am going to die. It is going to happen. Hanging on to the endless vapor of material pleasures as if it's indefinite, you live a hallucination through senses, more than the body already is, that will always fade. You will not see death discussed very much in life. You will see depictions of grief, you will see reactions to events, you will see discussions of an afterlife, you will see endless shots of people sitting with an empty expression on their face at a kitchen table, but you will hardly ever see people confront their own mortality in a way of acceptance or meditated inevitability. You will see people ask questions around a definitive answer that everybody knows. The judgment I am giving is very general and unless specified, admittedly unfair. It's a different story within the different stages of life. If you're getting wasted at 22 partying, not thinking about death, that's very different to 42. I don't expect a teenager to have mastered his ego and accepted his mortality, but the longing that can't ever be fulfilled should be confronted whenever someone is ready to. The endless, beautiful, genius-constructed lie we tell ourselves till death is once I get this thing, I'll be happy. Once I get this girl or boy, I'll be happy. Once I drink this drink, even temporarily, I will be happy. And it never ever works. A materialist might say it's the hedonic treadmill. A Buddhist might say it's seeing craving as salvation. A Christian looking at our reflection when we should be looking at God. But the outcome and conclusion is the same. We are not happy indefinitely, and we never will be. So we must accept that as we accept our end. And I know this sounds basic, which it is, but often the things that are the most basic need the loudest reminder and need to be at the front of our daily consciousness. Look at morality. We all know within ourselves not to be rude, cruel, or condescending, and yet often we are rude, cruel, and condescending. It's no great sin that needs atonement, but it's a fault that we all see in each other and still do nonetheless. Often we can think to ourselves, look at these people, so vapid in their consumption, so thoughtless in their action, so uncaring in their time, viewing morality or personal choice and freedom as a competition of virtue. And ironically, quite often despite this, we still judge ourselves on these things or do these things subconsciously as well, all the time. We're just not as concerned or frequent as someone else. There will always be someone worse or better than you. You can endlessly chastise or feel good about yourself. It is the example of courage and kindness that matters so much more than the speculation of it. It is the meditation of what it means to let go that matters much more than the offhand knowledge that one day you will. Without practice, what use is the knowledge? Not only is it a skill that needs constant usage, but it's also a skill that you will never fully learn or master. Childishly, impulsively, throwing something against a wall in anger or boredom is not happiness. It's an expression of impulse, a desire to be recognized, to express frustration and have reality tangibly react to it. Consumerism is the constant option to throw something against the wall, to be recognized by reality, and then to be rewarded for doing such. It has been set up in such a way that you will have its desires, even if you don't want to. So much of the foundation of how we connect interpersonally, how we view achievement within ourselves, is within the backdrop and setting of our consumeristic society. The contemporary normal life is one littered with bright neon signs, product placement, wasted plastic, and the forgettable moments waiting to skip an ad, constantly catering everything it has to me, and yet still feeling absolutely impersonable. Marketing slogans and descriptions enticingly written like a personal handwritten love letter, with me and the product after purchase discarded like a used condom. There's a lie at the bottom of every great marketing slogan, of every glamorous advertisement filled with models, of the do's and don'ts of self-help charlatans, of the chatbots that flood search engines congratulating you for searching up how to tie your shoelaces. The lie that it cares about you, that the people who bend over backwards, catering their products to your every need and desire so you feel all warm and cozy, have any regard for your well-being. It's not the fact that these fuckers at the top of these companies would see you dying on the sidewalk and they wouldn't care enough about you to even watch. It's not the fact that they've since birth trained you to put all your self-worth and value in being a good little grindset mindset bootlicker for their private interests. These values, these wants, these desires, did they actually come from your visceral life experience, or the self-guilt into being brought into a well-oiled machine that pays no attention to you if you don't get in line? Why the fuck do you care about what watch you have or what car you drive? It's not the fact that they've conditioned you to accept it's natural for us to just walk past those slowly dying on the sidewalk. It's the fact that you are completely immaterial to all of these things and they won't actually bring you happiness. That's why it's got to be beaten into you. That's why there's so much fucking guilt around it. That's why there's advertising in everything you see all the time. That's why when we all get these things, after the rush is over, it all means nothing to us, because our contemporary society is built into us, meaning that doesn't last, so it can sell the next thing. A satisfied customer, a satisfied citizen, is one that can't be marketed to or sold. It wants you hating yourself. It wants you to feel like you've endlessly won or lost some great infinite thing. What it does not want is your desires to be external to it. What it does not want is you to be detached from the ego it will eternally feed. What it does not want is you thinking beyond these desires to better ones that can build something sustainable, renewable, and reliable. Not the planned obsolescence rat race of endlessly consuming shit, not the brain fog apathy of placidly trying to make it one more day, but the resilience to know that a better world is possible, much different than the one we live in, and the fact that there are so many of us who are going to try to the last bated breath to achieve it. The tiniest act of breaking free from this is a victory. It is an upward climb, but there are so many of us growing every day, everywhere, that it won't slow down. For a long time, I was off-put by Eastern philosophy, absent-mindedly waving it away as becoming passive to the pain of the world, making personal escape look peaceful and free-thinking, but subconsciously, quite literally, absent-mindedly, becoming the perfect model citizen who will accept any condition or situation, no matter how unfair or oppressive, escaping collectively into individual salvation, far from the material reality, hurting those who still care about it. Not to mention the caste system and other fucked up hierarchies that inherently disgust me, but a close friend guided me into thinking about it much differently, combining the resignation of Buddhism with Vedic pragmatism. Essentially, raising your consciousness to a higher level beyond the default desires of a body or the marketing you've had all your life, detaching from letting it be your values, eventually creating your own desires. Not escaping thinking or caring, but choosing what to truly think and care about through careful meditation and reading with heavy introspection and attunement. I do not wish to achieve nirvana. I want to detach from what I desire and through meditation choose what I desire. Once you stop viewing yourself through these things, once you detach the ego from what you've been hardwired to desire, that is the beginning of being free in choice, because you begin viewing existence free from simply the shackles of fulfilling the body or expectation. You can have anger, you can have lust, you can have happiness, you can have this body, you can have material possessions, you can have these things, but they are not you. When most people think of ego death, it is the process of tripping too much on some psychedelic, going far off the boat and not knowing where you've ended up, experiencing something out of body and having it change how you view yourself in a sort of disillusionment with identity. This is a form of ego death. This is a process and a method, but not the idea itself. Personally, I am not a druggie. I don't partake in psychedelics, not my kind of thing. If you're into that, go ahead, more power to you. But it's not what I'm talking about or referencing specifically when I mention ego death. It may be the process that leads to it, but again, it is not the thing itself. I want to get very concrete and definitive. The idea of ego death is to stop viewing life as this body and for this body. The pure idea of the concept, regardless of the framework or lead-up, is something that rips the veneer of the self down until an individual questions their self-centered way of viewing reality and detaches their need of external or internal validation. Truly, I would say it's a process as well as an event. The first time an individual looks at the stars and comprehends how small they are. It's almost like the first step in realizing how frivolous it is to view this body as truth, or this body as something grander than that which surrounds it. The second, I would say, is the realization of mortality. The fact we all eventually meet our fates. Brought in usually by the first time someone we love passes away. The first time it really hits us, it will be us someday. The moment it hits us, that it's already slowly happening. There is no real off switch or moment of true pause. The fact all these people you've read about in history, all the past generations, have done the same cycle. The endless cycle. The third is usually in the modern life we find ourselves in, the mundanity. The fact that we are spending so much of this doing things that are repetitive, predictable, and repetitive and predictable, much like repeating a part of a sentence. When you think of mundane, you're probably thinking of the grey, claustrophobic, cramped office space, the repetitive, simple, boring actions of laundry, the dopamine high of a predictable, almost clinical orgasm, the slow build of annoyance of going through all of these things just once, the overwhelming, quiet frustration of doing it as an almost routine. The mundanity is the predictability of how this certain event or thing doesn't fulfill me or my ego. That's the mundane aspect, not the process or thing itself, but the element that does not cater to me. This leads to the fourth, which is selfless beauty, goodness, or plain witnessing, which is one of the most important, always the most overlooked, and the one we begrudgingly admit to. Now, when I mention beauty, I'm not here to argue if there is or is not objective beauty. I personally believe it is a subjective opinion through senses, but it's neither here nor there. Regardless of a person's conception of beauty or goodness, they likely would admit there is an element of it, there are examples of it, completely detached from themselves. As in, there is so much outside the self that doesn't need self-aggrandizement or follow desire, something that is sort of intrinsic to a thing, seeing beauty without it having anything to do with me, just witnessing whatever subject in its pure essence. This is in contrast to how we have built our society and the intrinsic solipsistic nature of having a body. Everything about experience validates that I am the most important thing. I see things from my point of view. Things happen to me. I heard about this. Here's what I think. Here's how this makes me feel. Here's how I see this. From birth, this is also drilled into us. The way a parent clutches and rocks you as a baby as if they hold the world in their hands, because they practically are your world and you are theirs. The way education builds up in a student a personalized bureaucratic buffet of interests and hobbies and understanding of history and life. None of this is inherently bad, but this has been put on steroids with our consumeristic society, and this has been put on experimental, not ever fit for public consumption steroids with social media. The universe does not need reinforcement or even acknowledgement. Ego does. It cannot survive, if you can even call it that, without it. When you fulfill the ego, it just validates the temporary, making a momentary feeling seem like an eternal truth. Constantly reaffirming that temporary feeling again and again, when real truth doesn't need affirmation or even witnessing. The egotistical way to view existence is that it is a thing that happens to me, and the selfless way is that it is an experience I get to witness and participate in. This difference in mindset may seem minuscule, but its consequence is exponential. Rather than viewing life as a thing I must do and cater to myself, it becomes a thing to witness and study. Tiny moments that were otherwise boring become fascinating. Daily grandiosity, the sun rays bursting through the clouds, the enormous stretch of grass beneath my feet, to the unnoticed trivialities, like the way that momentum forces clothes in the dryer to go round and round, the ants below me, their conundrum looking up at me, the wind slowly drying clothes on the line. Thinking about how our ancestors studied the natural elements and made methods around them, like the one I'm participating in. Rather than just doing a task, you're observing the things around it. Rather than just talking to a person to fulfill something, to get something, to achieve something, their presence is enough. Beyond tasks, the detachment of ego translates to how we treat other people as well. How often in life when someone passes away do we think, if only I had one more conversation with them, if only I could tell them the way they make me feel, if only I had paid more attention, if only I hadn't rushed aside them to gratify something in my life. Do not allow yourself to have this regret. Be present with people, taking actual interest in what they say, with no expectation of reward or validation. When you stop viewing life as something that needs to cater to you, the moments that don't matter hold as much weight as the moments that do. I still like getting head, I still like playing Doom, and you know I like boogieing down, but I do not live my life for getting head and playing Doom and boogieing down, nor do I view myself as these things. I am not my birth, I am not my death, I am not my Call of Duty killstreak, I am not even these videos or this channel. I am not all the things in between birth and death. After going through this process of seeing so much outside the ego, when we've built our societies and lives around it, an individual can go through a hollowness in participating in any of it. Like I said, while it can be a process, it can be an event as well, and the process often leads to an event. The dark night of the soul is a spiritual term made by St. John of the Cross. While it is related and originates from Christian mysticism, it can be applied more generally to spirituality and often is. It comes from a poem he wrote about his own spiritual crisis and coming out the other side. He was a reformist of the Carmelite order, and for this he was imprisoned by his brothers for 9 months. For 9 months he was put in a cell with little light, food, or company, stripped of earthly pleasures or societal expectations and left with himself and his thoughts. This was where he did the majority of his writing. This is what made him write The Dark Night of the Soul. The poem is about being disillusioned by life, forgoing any sense of familiarity and making peace with being in the unknown, losing yourself. The last stanza says, "I remained lost in oblivion, my face I reclined on the beloved. All ceased and I abandoned myself, leaving my cares forgotten among the lilies." Saints often dedicate their lives to God in worship, slowly dissolving their identity until all actions and moments are made in service to the Most High, their individuality made into an almost gesture of devotion. Even culturally in Christianity, their uniqueness becomes a symbol for absolute servitude. Mary MacKillop's orphanage, Ignatius leaving his life of luxury, Joan of Arc being burned alive for her faith, St. John going through a transformative darkness that on the other side gave him the liberation of new purpose, the personal trial of trying to see through the darkest night and coming out with a clearer vision and purpose. Similar popular idioms are everywhere. Night is always darkest before the dawn. Hope begins in the dark. I'm not here to preach turning to God or anything like that. It's just that this is a good example of detaching from material pleasures for something that is truly meaningful and fulfilling for the individual, realizing the ego is a false, illusory comfort that we desperately try to convince ourselves exists. This video's title is a lie. You can't kill something that ultimately isn't there, that's heart was never beating. There is no ego death because there is no real ego. It's false. It's more so a realization of a mirage you've been telling yourself and had crammed down your throat. That this sensation is true. That this body is you. That this purpose of life in this body is to validate it. The dark night of the soul is a process of breaking free of that validation. One could argue that I'm cherry-picking different philosophies and religions who have vague conceptual overlap and squeezing them like fruits into my own wild mango mix of thoughts and theories. But this misses out on why I'm doing such a thing. It's because the Buddhists were right and their observation is universal. Dissatisfaction, dukkha, is always going to be the end result, regardless of who you are, out of senses. You can't grow something that doesn't exist. Just delude yourself that it does. You can't build a house out of sand, and you can't rely on pleasing the ego that is false. You may be thinking, what is the purpose of learning our false ego? How could this be implemented into action? How do I not lose my sanity in the process? Well, we need to build and anchor our lives around something more than ourselves, lest our framework will break and rebuild and break and rebuild to infinity, until it breaks for a final time. If you set someone on fire who has a detached ego, they aren't gonna then think, suffering is but a temporary roadblock in the ever-folding plan of the universe as it flows. They're probably gonna go, "Oh fuck, I'm on fire!" Right. This scenario, as absurd as it is, provides a good lesson on the outcomes of detaching from the false ego. Often outsiders romanticize the practice as a complete detachment from the body, to be stabbed and not feel the blade go in. Have such mastery over emotion, it no longer matters to the body to feel the body. This is a falsehood. In the Perfection of Yoga, Swami put it well by pointing out the fact there is no question of killing desire, for desire is the constant companion of the living entity. Contemporary civilization in this age of Kali, or age of darkness, has actually made it impossible for us to be alone, to be desireless, and to be possessionless. It is what we choose to do with these desires and feelings. That is the practice. That is the real freedom within a body. The most humiliating and empowering thing about a man's actions is the real freedom in how he responds to what happens to him. Do you inflict the same trauma you receive? How do you deal with people you hate and hate you? How do you deal with a body that is slowly dying every day? Our choices, our consciousness, what we desire, this is freedom. Our pain, our feeling, the innate property of desire. This is what we base our choices on. It is the nature of being alive to have desire, and it is our to feel the body. This is a falsehood. In the Perfection of Yoga, Swami put it well by pointing out the fact there is no question of killing desire, for desire is the constant companion of the living entity. Contemporary civilization in this age of Kali, or age of darkness, has actually made it impossible for us to be alone, to be desireless, and to be possessionless. It is what we choose to do with these desires and feelings. That is the practice. That is the real freedom within a body. The most humiliating and empowering thing about a man's actions is the real freedom in how he responds to what happens to him. Do you inflict the same trauma you receive? How do you deal with people you hate and hate you? How do you deal with a body that is slowly dying every day? Our choices, our consciousness, what we desire, this is freedom. Our pain, our feeling, the innate property of desire. This is what we base our choices on. It is the nature of being alive to have desire, and it is our choice to overcome it or let it be something different than fulfilling it indefinitely on a base setting. To the likely question of how does this not lead to a nihilistic outlook, I detach from this and I don't even get a reward. I don't even get to pose in the mirror while putting random quotes on my social media. I instead have to almost exactly not do that. I ask a question in response. Do you view the meaning of life as satisfying yourself and the false ego? Why is life meaningless if it doesn't cater to you as an individual and your gratification? This is again a tightrope argument I'm trying to perform. I know that life shouldn't adhere to man's psychological comforts in a coddling way, because life will eternally disappoint anyone who tries. But where does it, at what point, become justifying and glorifying the horrific parts of life? Where does the measured reaction become obsolete because life's cruelty shouldn't be justified, and man should take pragmatic action against it instead of adapting to it? Well, my foolery was thinking that Eastern philosophy was strictly passive. It's not. The Bhagavad Gita from Vedic texts is about Arjuna, a prince, going to battle and Krishna, the god, telling him to fight for what he believes in a way that is selfless and for the benefit of others. You have the right to perform your duty, but not the fruits of your actions. Or, essentially, do what is right and is your duty, but without attachment to the result. He comforts Arjuna by saying to stop looking for comfort. Virtue in Veda is not to become inactive or completely detached, but to become detached from the fruit of a good action, so it does not get in the way of doing good. This is why personally I will never want nirvana. I have the desire to do good, but I must detach from valuing myself egotistically by the result. With
Stage.
A shorter stage now, but one that is no less demanding on the crews. Setting consistently fast times on stages such as these counts for a lot in the grand scheme of the event.
Start slight left, 120, good luck.
With this, like most things, it's easier said than done. Aren't we all just hypocrites, knowing that senses are an illusion, knowing that this ego is false, and yet inevitably, even in tiny ways, still trying to feed it? This can be answered through the contemporary famous Buddhist line, first enlightenment, then laundry, which means yes, you reach enlightenment and a different way of thinking, but you still have to do daily chores, you still have to eat, you still have to live within the material world. A detached ego does not mean no more doing the dishwasher, it means you have a different attitude when doing the dishwasher. Overcoming desire does not mean you no longer feel pain, it means you change your reaction to pain. With all this talk of ego death and detachment, it's important to ask, is ego an inherently bad thing in all circumstances? Is an athlete egotistical because he measures himself in skill and achievement? Is it wrong to take pride in one's work, to like the look of a finished product, to cheer for a sports team, to go oorah in a Marine Corps, to start barking like a rabid dog when you see your girlfriend naked for the 400th time? Humility is the answer to these questions. The cleanliness one achieves in a house is not necessarily a vain thing. It can be, oh look how neat my garden is next to neighbor Samantha's. But the practice can also be of health, neatness, and practicality. It can boost morale and productivity. It can be aesthetically pleasing in a way that isn't tied to the gnawing need of satisfaction. The reasoning and assessment behind this is what is important. I can be beautiful, but I am not my beauty. I don't determine my self-worth or the self-worth of others on the observation or expectation of that criteria. If I became ugly, was told I was ugly, or was generally considered by society standards as ugly, I should not define myself by that. I am not my ugliness. I am not undesirable or desirable because I don't value or evaluate myself by that standard. I like to meet that standard due to cleanliness, general presentability, and impression, but I am not it. I am detached from the result. Nothing defines you if you don't let it. Nothing can defeat you if you don't value yourself by defeat. So the action or innate property is not the problem. The why and assessment of self, i.e. I am my beauty, is the potential problem. Detachment is not only freeing, it can also be healing. Accepting that something did or did not happen, accepting being hurt or that you hurt others, accepting that one event doesn't have to dictate future events. Who you were doesn't have to be who you are. You are a blank canvas, constantly being drawn on and erased. The question is, what do you paint? Now, are all types of attachments wrong? Well, this question is why Vedic texts generally speak to me more than Buddhist texts, because no matter what I read, I will never be convinced to stop loving my girlfriend or care about my family. Every time I've ever read or tried to be swooned by the song of complete detachment, I end up thinking it's almost training me to forget my humanity, because I care about people, and that is not, and will never be in my eyes, a weakness. Every time I've ever read or tried to be swooned by the song of complete detachment, I end up thinking it's almost training me to forget my humanity, because I care about people, and that is not, and will never be in my eyes, a weakness. Anytime I read about it, true nirvana, I feel like Aang in that episode of Avatar, where he has to let go of Katara, sees she's in pain, and he's like, fuck this, and tries to help her. The vulnerability of caring about people, if it is the fork in the road of becoming truly free, I will drive down it over and over again until the tires break and I run out of gas. I choose that desire because I value its outcome more than anything else. I want a healthy, happy relationship. I want my family to be in good health. I accept being defined, valued, and vulnerable by desiring this. I let go of the attachment of achieving nirvana because I choose to feel the pain of caring and accept it. Knowing it's a desire that can never truly be fulfilled, I bet on losing dogs, and I always will. I accept that I will let go of you eventually, but I will hold you for as long as I can. So I don't believe the outcome or result of detachment is centering yourself on the disillusionment of all desire itself. But what it does mean is you center yourself on something other than yourself and the usual trappings of the body and senses. You purify your mind to the best of abilities. It does not mean we accept discomfort or allow ourselves to not care about the world. It's that we don't let what hurts us define us, or what pleases us. We let our virtue become our guide and our actions as examples, rather than the highs and lows of neurochemistry or description, never accepting what causes us pain, but accepting there will be pain. I am never a finished statement, I am never a satisfied desire, I am never my lowest or highest action. I am what I choose to be.
Start slight left on 20. Good luck.
This is something special and personal to me, and I hope you love it as much as I do. It's a poem called The Desiderata. It's only a page long, but is filled with a book of depth. It's what I adored since before I can remember, as it hung up in my grandparents' house. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection, neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all ardity and disenchantment it is perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here, and whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace with your soul. With all its sham and drudgery and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be careful, strive to be happy. While I adore every line in this simple masterpiece, I specifically worship the line, "You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here." I think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever read, and I have read some beautiful things. What a hauntingly comforting line. My admiration of it is strange, because lines similar to it I've heard all my life always annoyed me. Mental health awareness lines like "everybody has inherent value" and "you are enough" were the bane of my childhood, especially "you matter." I hated this line. It was a mental health slogan in my time, and was such a banal, socially unrealistic, and knowingly or unknowingly ignorant platitude. It was blasted everywhere, on social media, bumper stickers, graffiti. Obviously, I don't have an issue with the line itself. It's a very nice view, and maybe in a brotherhood way I agree. But while the sentiment is nice, when you look around and see people again quietly dying on the sidewalk, you quickly realize even if those quotes are nice, in the tangible day-to-day, some people seem to matter a lot more than others. And by slapping a band-aid socially by saying "you matter," I've always thought of it as forcefully putting a binky to a crying baby. Rather than finding out why the baby is crying, you just want to politely shut it up. Rather than asking why people feel like they don't matter, you just blankly tell them they do. They're still likely going to feel that inner sense of worthlessness, probably even more so because generically trying to lift people up comes off as hollow and infantilizing when reality clashes with that idealized vision. If someone feels disconnected, ignored, or undervalued, the worst thing you can do is give an impersonal, generic affirmation that just feels off with the reality around them. Their experience of whatever trauma, despair, or grief needs a proper dissection. Being reduced to a simple one-size-fits-all solution that solves nothing and everything at the same time, it almost validates their feeling of not mattering in the eyes of their fellow man. That the solution is so impersonal, as if they don't even warrant an argument, discussion, or actual judgment on worth. Even though I, at any point, get to have some amount of choice, life can have moments that, no matter how good your decisions, suck on a level unwritable. You could be murdered and your end reduction will be a nameless victim in one of those true crime videos people put on as they drift off to sleep. You can do everything right and still lose. That is not a weakness, that is life. I'd like to make an amendment to this brilliant Star Trek quote. You can do everything right, and you will lose. This is the final greatest violation of everything society props to an individual. This is what the soldier feels with a bullet breaking through their chest, their last realization of being another body in the meat grinder. This is what the veteran feels having gotten PTSD from surviving, trying to forget what he saw and did, popping endless bottles and pills, wishing that he died in combat to not live as a husk of his former self, doing everything you were supposed to do and it still hurts so bad, and the government has all but abandoned you for serving. This is the repeated, sickening lie that we live in a meritocracy, when it's obvious that the rich have purposely made class mobility impossible to hoard it all for themselves. The middle class has become so emotionally attached to their own suffering and oppression they find endless justifications for their own exploitation. This is the betrayal of believing all of it. Pulling yourself up from your bootstraps, working your entire life with a sense of personal responsibility for any flaw or disadvantage the system has, and finally, after losing so much to gain so little, getting replaced by a worker who will do the same work for lower wages or a bot who would do it for free. Wiped away with indifference for the greater good for those who have no interest in good or greatness but their own interest. In their interests. You have no one to appeal to because you don't work for a boss, you work for a large, faceless head of bureaucracy that only seems to go up. This is the Kim there are people that are dying moments that hits you like a WMD. Society, even if you do everything it wants and expects of you, will never care about you, and will guilt you till your last breath to fall in line and guilt trip yourself to care when it doesn't. And you will die with so much of your life feeling like it was your fault. Please remove the anesthetic and see they are fucking you to death and finding endless justifications for why it's okay and should be happening. The clarity of this repeating, indefinite moment of despair is the wisdom of foresight. Already knowing the ending because you remember before the beginning. You can see the beginning and ending over and over again in daily life, the flickering light of a flame sustaining itself off of a dying broken wood. This line and larger poem is the counterbalance to this endless gnawing feeling of hating yourself and hating others for not being what we can never be or sustain. Hate-filled utopia dreams cursing something that never existed. It doesn't depend on social validation or recognition. It's not tied to ego or societal hierarchies. It's not waving away anything. Instead, it grounds your existence in something eternal and awe-inspiring, the universe itself, which you are and are a part of. There is a Rumi quote I've been thinking about a lot writing this. Beyond all ideas of right and wrong, there is a field. I will meet you there. I know often ideas like these seem purposely vague, impractical, pseudo-intellectual, or wishy-washy. So to get more concrete, I am human. I am a part of the human race. I'm confided in the limitations of being human. But as well as being part of the human race, I'm part of the universe. Humanity tends to view itself as solely an observer rather than a different form of what it's observing. It's a unique form of self-imposed isolation because we are as meant to be here as what we are viewing here. This is the ego to view yourself as different than the cycle. No matter what you are, where you are, or what you're doing, you're always a part of something so much larger than yourself. When I was a Christian and raised as a Christian, I viewed it as you are a creation viewing and experiencing creation. You're an act of God, an expression of His will, and as much as you may stray from the path, you come from divinity and an ultimate goodness that you can never really break, only fall from, or be cast aside by strife and evil. When you see others in despair, they've forgotten their inherent worth and potential embedded in them. And since losing faith, that purposeful individualistic grandiosity went and naturally was replaced with feelings of cosmic insignificance, indifference, and detachment. But now, in my old elderly age of 19 years old as of writing this, 20 years old of finishing this, I even more so now feel connected to the universe and my fellow men. The universe, in essence, is a grand cosmic recycling system where matter and energy are endlessly recombined and repurposed. In this ever-changing place, the universe is echoing to itself, light bouncing from star system to star system, cycles developing and ending and then beginning. Nothing is truly lost.
5 right. And right of crest, 80. Three left, past junction, bad bump, 60, slight right, 100. Turn 2 right short into 2 left, and 2 left to 3 right sharp, 30. Turn square left. 80. Turn square right, small cut. 120. Right and 6 left, slowing 50 over finish, square right to stop. Okay, that's a 4 minute 17.7.